Welcome back, everyone, to the Two Industry Podcast. Again, my name is Hill. This is Mike Games, and that's Andrew making things happen. That's what he does.
Jerking off like you said in the last.
Exactly right. He's not jerking off. Y'all can keep your tissues for actually crying, like I was suggesting. Because in the previous videos, we were talking about how Microsoft and our expectations that we had in the previous year and our expectations that we have for them in this following E3. And the same for Sony, and Sony is like winning. That's it. Now,
That's all they do.
That's all they do is win. Now, as far as Nintendo, well, they're dealing with a lot. But let's start off with this. What was our expectations previously?
Well, since you're both looking at me, and
I'm looking at Mike. I'm just cross-eyed.
No, I'll go first. I was disappointed. I was hoping they'd be in a lot better position this year.
No. What was their expectations?
My expectations for them.
No. Yeah. What was it like in the past year?
Yeah.
Okay.
My expectations for them were that they were going to have a lot more content coming out. That they were going to be in a better position this year against the other consoles, and that they would have developers behind them.
Right.
That obviously is not happening.
Right. And you can see it from all aspects. Is like they released their earnings, and I don't know if a lot of you guys are financiers, but like to give you kind of a scope, they're not in a position of failure, but they are hurting. They
need
money.
Obamacare.
they are hemorrhaging because it's like they only really have two forms of revenue, which is selling Nintendo Wii U and selling the 3DS.
Right.
And games, their game content. And when you're not doing those, and if that's your only forms of revenue, what do? Unlike Sony and Microsoft, hell, if Xbox flopped, they could be like, oh shit, we're going to push the hell out of this Windows 8. That doesn't work as well. Right. But they have other forms of revenue.
Well, at this point, I don't even think they could lower their price, and it would make their consoles get more popular.
Yeah, it's not going to be a hardware thing that they can do.
It's about having games and content, and at this point.
And where do you think that the problem was? Do you think it was the developers screwing up with Nintendo?
It was everything. I mean, it was essentially Nintendo being arrogant and being in their bubble and saying like people are going to develop for our console because we're Nintendo. And when basically EA kind of put the nail in the coffin,
right,
and Ubisoft kind of followed as well, we're just like, well, you're not making a next gen console,
right?
And even though it's innovative, it's not doing what we're planning to do with our next. We can't just put a team aside just for your one console when we can develop for all these other two consoles that we know are going to sell. And they lost, and they lost bad on that bet because with the Wii U, they were doing it and they were selling out for so long that the developers saw that and were like, well, they were obviously people are going to have those consoles.
Right.
It's the exact opposite with this.
And this is what's tough as well, because I would have thought that they would have followed the same philosophy that they had with the Wii, which is it's okay to stay within your bubble, but be freaking like come with it, like come with something that you've been planning for a long time.
Well, the Wii, I mean, it was all shovelware. I mean, it was really all shovelware.
That's true.
I mean, you had their first party games, which are always amazing. Their first party games,
and they will
argue that they're as a game developer, they are top notch at what they do. But as their philosophy with hardware is just off the mark.
But that's what's tough is that they have really delayed their exclusive games, because now we're finally getting the Mario Kart coming out, and
which I'm excited and I'll get.
Yeah, and it's going to be great, but it's not a system pusher. It's not going to be something that's going to,
Well, there will be that little niche that's been waiting for this, and I'm sure they were like, well, it may go at 5% or whatever,
but not enough to overtake like Microsoft.
Overtake they really have to come out with something innovative, and I know they've come out and said they're going to do something with apps now.
Yeah, with the mobile,
which it has to tie into Mario 8, and it's just not what people want. And at this point, the only way to cover that gash is to
that's not a gash, bro. That's a bullet wound.
Right. I mean, you're losing an arm, and you're not acknowledging. Yeah, it's just merely a flesh wound. That's the way they're approaching it. They're just like, it's merely a flesh wound. They need to give they need to follow. I hate to say it, but they need to follow Sony's thing and give the gamers what they want. If they want to post videos of Nintendo stuff on YouTube, and don't go after them for it.
Right.
If they want to push your stuff, don't get
Yeah, because the
mad
people
at
are
the market.
your people are your marketing folks. You know,
Right,
That-
because
that's
people
just-
love Nintendo, and I understand there's one thing about having control over Zelda and Mario, and
your
you don't
actual,
want it to be
you know,
in all
license.
these crazy things that have nothing to do with Nintendo. But
people love that. I mean,
People-
that's their love. That's where it shows their connection with that company.
right, and they need to let that go a little bit, and then they need, God, man, I don't even know what they could do, honestly.
And actually, something you were saying about the mobile market. Now, I think they actually need to go to their
Mhm.
mobile market, not just have like companion apps. But I think because nobody has the Wii U, obviously,
Right.
they need to just set aside a separate department and do some mobile games. I
Right.
know Iwata already said no, we're not going to do that at all. But
Well, I mean, I understand this point because it's hurting the 3DS market,
Mhm.
but at the same time,
Yeah, it
they need-
cannibalizes
They,
this.
need to do something.
There's some kind of other They need some other revenue stream.
Right.
They really need it because they're not putting out their exclusives fast enough to generate revenue. They're not selling the systems. People are not really excited about like the gamepad idea compared to like the Wii motion controls, like they were in the previous generation. And developers are just not backing them.
they really need to do something to
I mean,
bring
the,
the developers, the third-party developers.
well, the
Get
one
bought
market,
by
the
another
one
company,
market
yeah.
they are doing well, and I think it's even better than Microsoft is their indie developer.
Right.
They have a whole indie store that's doing really pretty well for them. But again, they're probably not making that much money off of it because they're not. I mean, again, yeah, it's kind of like Sony making money off of third-party developers for indie games. So
Right. It's not.
they're
it's
making
not big
they're making
enough.
some money, but not enough to close that guy.
Because I think they've been in the negative for the past 3 years,
Yeah.
or something like that, 3 or 4 years. Which is because if it's any other company, say like if it was a car company or like I don't know somebody that sells rice, it's not that severe. You know,
Right.
in the gaming industry, it's tough. That's what happened to Sega. Sega was like in negative for like the last for 6 years straight, and then they just
Well, they lost it on hardware, right? Hardware is where you're going to lose all your money.
right.
So, I mean, you're lucky if you
That's your
break,
big bet. is
you're
your
lucky.
hardware.
You're lucky if you break even on that.
Right. That's your big bet.
But
Right.
you want everybody to buy content through DLC, through your first party games and all that. And if the hardware is not out there to play those games, then you're stuck. Which is why Sega is finally making a profit now.
Right. Okay. Do you think that they're going to do anything in this E3 to kind of change their progress?
They'll
No,
build
they're
it-
not going to do anything in E3. They already announced,
Well,
they
they-
may
Well, I
have
mean,
a
the Nintendo Direct, yeah.
They'll do their
but
direct, and if they're smart, they'll have two games that they talk about. One is Zelda.
Hyrule Warriors.
No, I think actual Zelda game. I'm predicting that they'll at least talk about an actual either a title of a Zelda game if they haven't.
Just to build
something's been
excitement
leaked,
at least,
yeah,
right?
or some pictures of it in a Metroid game.
I think they actually showed some type of video footage, like in-house of a new Zelda game.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll show that during their E3 Nintendo Direct.
And that'll be in another year or two. But hopefully they do have a secret, which I personally hope it's a Metroid game, way better than the last one. But I love Metroid. I love all their first party games, and I don't want to see another Donkey Kong game. Maybe another Kid Icarus game for the 3DS.
And that's what's tough is like I think they really were betting on that Donkey Kong being successful.
and
as
it
well.
was. I think it did okay for them. I bought myself a copy. It was a good game, but
You got to come with Mario, either Mario or Zelda.
You-
Well,
like
the
that.
3D World came out, and it was actually
they're all solid games.
Yeah,
They're all solid
solid, right?
games.
Yeah,
But
we're
are
talking
they
about
system sellers.
freaking Mario Galaxy pushed Wii U systems. Okay, that
Right.
shit was ridiculous, and they need something like that because that's the
Yeah,
history.
they'll probably have a Mario Galaxy 3 game. Good call.
That's the history of Nintendo. Is whatever the Mario game is the direction of where the console goes, and whenever you kind of delay on that, then you're delaying your system seller as well.
they also kind of went away from their gamepad. I really liked what they did with Zombie U. I know it wasn't a system seller. Well, it was for me
And that was
actually.
Ubisoft as well.
Yeah, and they need to do something innovative like that, like being able to tie and use their gamepad and say, okay,
That's
this is what you
right.
could do.
Well, again,
Oh,
that was
games.
Ubisoft. That wasn't
Yeah.
really their call.
And
But
that's where one of Nintendo's skills was like, let's come out with this gimmick, but this is how it's done, and developers will kind of copy and follow that and innovate from that.
Which
This
is
time they just kind
funny.
of left them.
well,
Yeah,
I mean, look what
because-
they're doing with Mario 8, right? So Mario Kart 8, you buy the game and you get a free game. That shows how bad they're doing. You buy their game and they're going to give you Pikmin, Mario, something else. Obviously, it's showing where they're at, right? They're just like, please buy our content. So it's a sad case of Nintendo, and I feel for them
and what's
because I
tough
really
too,
wanted them to be on top.
what's tough too is like when you watch the Nintendo Directs and like Iwata comes out there, you're just like, oh, it's so depressing.
You know,
And he's wearing like the Luigi hat. You're like, yeah, you're second fiddle.
he really needs to embrace a different philosophy. Um, they're stuck in their old ways of running that company, and they really need some new blood. And I hope they give Reggie more power because I feel like he knows what needs to be done, but he's
He's just the
hindered.
American branch.
He's hindered by it by the Japanese guys.
I don't
That's why.
I don't think they would give him any power, but if anything, they should do is definitely be open to his ideas, because it's just a. I think they kind of block him out because this is a Japanese culture thing. You know, they're
Right,
like, this is our folks. You know, we just picked you up so you can run U.S. Okay,
right.
stay in that realm. And he's like, hey, they're not selling over here,
But
bro.
hey, I can only polish that turd so much.
And he does a fantastic job.
He
of
does.
polishing.
Everybody loves Reggie, right?
Yeah.
Who doesn't love Reggie? And they should give him more power.
Everybody's like, man, Reggie, just go to Sony, bro. Just
Like I
just
think
dip out.
any developer that's pissed off at like Microsoft and especially Sony, Nintendo should be on them
right.
like white on rice. Like just be
here
like,
you go.
hey,
we got this.
we are going to give you everything you want. We're going to push all our marketing for
Right.
you. Come to our system,
Right.
and they should. That's what they should do.
And that's what Reggie's skill is just come in and say, hey,
Yeah, he's a
let's-
natural salesman. And
Right.
he could do that, and
He could-
I want him to have that power to do that.
and it's interesting that you said that they have kind of this old, philosophy. Because with Miyamoto, how he kind of worked was like, let's try something new. Let's be different. Let's kind of try this. No, that doesn't work. Let's try this. And he kind of steps down, and they're like, okay, we're gonna play it safe. And that's probably what I really feel like their problem is they're probably just playing it safe, too safe.
And I'm surprised that their heads are still the heads.
Yeah, like, I'm really
if
surprised
they
no
were
one's
a
fired.
U.S. company. I mean,
Well, I think the founders of the family, I can't remember their name, but they actually had to sell a lot of their stock just to
Yeah,
help the company.
yeah, they helped the company.
And it's like that's it. I mean that was
That's scary. And I want to reiterate, they're not like Sony and Microsoft. They don't have other revenue streams. You know,
right. They don't have an entertainment division. They don't make
Yeah.
movies. They don't have music. They don't make OS systems.
right, right.
Crappy OS systems.
Right.
They don't make phones.
Actually, and Nintendo just don't even get that idea to make an OS system because I could just see them trying and like failing. Like, don't me versus OS. Like, no, just don't do it.
They should come out with a couple cartoons to get the kids excited
right.
that would want them to buy.
Come out with a movie. Come
I
out
mean,
with
not
Mario
just-
the movie.
not just a Pokemon, a reboot of a Mario movie,
Right.
not just a Pokemon cartoon, but some other
Zelda movie.
Kid Icarus cartoon sounds like a great idea. Like,
Metroid movie. Something.
yeah, Metroid movie would be great. That would get the fan base up. Anything to kind of get your word out that you're still alive and thriving.
That you're alive.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's just the moral of the story is don't do drugs.
Or do drugs.
do drugs, Nintendo. Do drugs. No. Okay, so that ends it for us talking about expectations for Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo. Next, in our next video, we're going to talk about our predictions overall for E3 and where we're going to foresee games and what direction the developers are going to go. All right, so catch you soon.